Good morning, everybody. Today I wanted to talk to you about the manipulations of the trauma bond. When you first meet the narcissist, what you'll find is after that particular time of meeting them, may or may not be interested in them or pursuing them. You take it as a regular old day, but then what comes to follow is that individual seems to get themselves planted in your life around the way, and where the next thing you know, you're starting to see them in different areas wherever you had met them. They plant themselves there. And for all the people that think that they don't target us or target you, when you reflect back that they were all around you after that. They would position themselves. You might go to that same spot that you had met them at, and they're already there, so that they can basically slowly but surely get in contact with you again and make it as if it was by accident, coincidence. And that's not the case. That's how you're targeted once the narcissist has spoke with you, and then they realize that, you know, you've already been tested several times in that one conversation. They like that you have in your traits, and before you know it, because they see that you have empathy and that you think they're thinking they can get you locked up in a situation themselves. You know, maybe you go out on a date with them. You can't really get too much information out of them. You're trying because you do like the idea of the individual, which is never a good thing. If you like the idea of somebody and you let your boundaries down like I did at the particular time. If I would have just kept my boundaries the same with everybody across the board, then I would have been okay. But a lot of times, and this individual even planted, the narcissist will plant things in your head, because the narcissist planted this in my head, that she said it a few times, and the next thing it was reverbing in my head that, you know, when you really like somebody, you give them more room to make mistakes, is basically what she had told me. And I was getting those subliminals anyway to begin with, which was very interesting. And then I was following through with that. So I do think that they have the ability to put things in your head, to plant things in your head. They do, y'all. I don't know how they do it. It's spiritual, and I don't believe that it's just them. There's not just them there inner working with you. There's some devious action from some underworld spirits, and they're able to plant things in your head. Planting in your head to give them a benefit of the doubt is been planted, because we all said that, and that's not something that's just coincidence, because we would never say that with regular humanity. But what you'll find is that you may find out even a little bit of word around. That's not good. Also, your intuition telling you. It's not even just your intuition telling you, but now your intuition's having you get word from around that she's made a lot of mistakes, or she's done some other guy she had some relationship with, and it wasn't so good. So you may hear stuff like that. The next thing you know, you're kind of giving them benefit of the doubt. That's the truth, y'all. When you hear whispers about somebody for a long period of time, man, and you don't even know that person, then you meet the person and, you know, they want to date you and you're thinking about it. If you've heard whispers about it, man, that's the truth, man. You might as well just mark that as being true and just leave it alone and walk away from it. You'll save yourself a lot of time and effort. Because if I would have did that, that would have been a red flag that I would catch now. On your first date, you know, you're trying to get information, just small stuff. And that's true. They really data mine you. But the way they data mine is really weird. It's almost, you know how God makes everybody tell the truth in a weird way? Makes them tell the truth to where if they're data mining you, for instance, it's not natural at all. It's almost like they're just hitting you with question after question after question. It's not even like, you know, like when we have questions, we kind of get like a little rhythm to it or something, because, you know, we're thinking and processing. But when they start asking questions, it's almost like if you're answering all the questions, they feel like they hit the jackpot, and they're just going to keep going with question after question after question, and to where And I think that's how they think about it, because that's how they are. It's almost like want to get everything they can get, because that's how they are. There's like scavengers. Anything they're enticed into, they're greedy. And so even when it comes to data mining, if you start answering all them questions, they get greedy about it and they'll be continuing. But it's almost like, it's weird when you know, I remember reflecting back, I was like, this is weird. And it seems like she's trying to play me or something, but I'm going to answer her questions because I don't really have anything to hide, you know. But then I didn't know how powerful she was, as far as demonically powerful. I found out later because I thought that I was catching on to narcissism. I didn't know that's what it was called at the time, because I had woke up shortly thereafter completely. But because she walked and talked like a couple of my exes, I had caught on by then. But the data mining is a funny one. So they come in as the vulnerable victim, and that's how you let them in. And they'll gain your trust that way, and they won't have to put off that much energy, because if they're the victim, they don't have to do too much. The victim just has to really sit there and accept the gifts you got for them. And that's why they like to play the victim, because if they play the victim, then they're always getting. It's like less work for them, and less financially, and less mentally, spiritually, whatever. And I think that they do like you to draw yourself into this stuff to some degree, because when you draw yourself into it, it's almost like a contract or something. I have to say that there's been a couple of conversations that we had where she asked me questions almost as if they were contract questions, like almost verbal agreements. And that in itself is really eerie and freaky. And I wish to some degree that I never answered those contract agreements or whatever. I mean, I wasn't aware. And so, you know, like, I reject them, and I rejected them, you know, after I woke up to this stuff. But it's kind of like I am leery, because after dealing with all this narcissistic stuff, and then realizing how many people are negatively spiritually orchestrated by that, you know, you become more aware. And so it's almost like some of the questions they ask you and you agree to them, it's almost as if you came into a verbal contract agreement with them. And I do believe that there is something to that. I do believe that it has a lot of compound impactability of the trauma bond, soul ties, and, you know, all that spiritual spouse crap, all of that stuff. So then after they play the victim, they're absorbing your energy, they're starting to glow up, and now you're kind of already kind of wobbling a little, because you're intrigued by the fact that they're not really walking and talking like the average person. They're not giving you a whole lot of answers, just simple stuff that you would normally get answers to. There's intrigue there, and the energy's different. But you continue along with it because you have that nostalgia, right? It's something that you've dealt with in your family, or you're used to that energy because you've been around it a long time when you were unawoke. So it kind of is okay. You kind of feel a comfort or an okayness with it, not a comfort. But because you feel an okayness with it, and it's a little interesting, you feel a little comfort in the beginning. You probably get butterflies, but butterflies is a sign that you're in the presence of a narcissist. It's what I call a feel-good red flag, where your intuition's throwing you red flags. So it's throwing up the sign of red flags, but then you're getting love bombed at the same time. And because you're getting love bombed at the same time, then it makes you feel a flutter. So it's a feel-good red flag. What comes next is just continue of mirroring. Then maybe on the next day, that data mining usually happens on like a second or a third meet. And then maybe you'll have sex. You'll, get to know each other a little more. You'll start to hear something about either something you did wrong. Rule will be put forth in a weird way. and they'll start talking about their ex already, and you might get a couple of phone calls coming through from a guy. They'll say it's friends with all of their exes. And that's a huge red flag. Run away if you ever hear that. They're friends with all their ex-boyfriends or girlfriends, or whoever I'm talking to here. And the next thing I'll come across, for me, it was grabbing a Diet Coke out of the refrigerator. And she said, "You have soda in your fridge?" And I said, "Yeah. You want one?" And she said, "No. But in my house, me and my son only have water at home, and we only drink soda when we're outside the house." And she said it with such conviction that I felt like that I wanted to accommodate, and I told her that, well, if that's how you feel, I could do that here. I felt weird when I said it, and it came out so quickly, and it all happened so quickly. The next thing, I don't have any soda in the fridge, but I wanted it. This kind of stuff is where these rules would start, and then you're always guessing and second guessing yourself. And they say, if you're, always second guessing yourself, you're in the presence of a narcissist, And so that's a huge red flag as well. Because generally speaking, people are laid back enough to where they let you do you and they do them. But see, now they're intruding into your life. When they're intruding into your life, now they're walking on your birthright and walking all over your boundaries. Like they own it. They own your house now. They own the house. They own your birthright, and they're telling you what to do. So you need to know where you should have good boundaries, and you should observe them, and you should protect them by all means necessary. And if you have to keep reminding somebody of boundaries, and you walk away. What the kind of stuff that happened, they continue to mirror you, and then you fall in love with them. They'll do some kind of a test from them would be, they may cancel a date with you and blame it on their ex-husband. And they'll see how pissed off you get or how you feel about that. And that'll be a test. Next one, they'll get you into a situation where they'll kind of say something like, well, you don't love me, all of a sudden. Like everything's kind of cool. And then the next day or whatever, you see them, and then shortly during that day of that meet, you might hear something like, all of a sudden, you don't love me. And so then from there, you don't understand why they would say something like that. So then it becomes you feeling all weird, and you're trying to straighten out and make her understand that you really love her. You're kind of checking to see, that's a check to see if you're gonna abandon them or how far you would go for them. And so when you keep telling them you love them and you keep trying to pour into them, then they know that you passed the tests, and they just continue to give you these tests, and then to slowly manipulate you and put you under their control with all of these rules and orders and then isolate you away from everybody by telling you I can't see you, but I am at home doing schoolwork or something, or I'm somewhere doing schoolwork, meaning if you want to be with me, you can't go out and hang out, but whatever, it's gonna they'll get you isolated somehow, some way. And then whatever it is you're going out to do, if it's getting in the way of what they want you to do, or wish for you to be like, then they're going to convince you that it's bad or evil. And then from there, they'll start to do things like they'll start slowly distancing themselves from you, meaning the phone calls will slow down, their time with you will not be as much, and they'll just kind of continue to fade out of your life. And see how long it takes for you to pop off at them, and if you jump on it real quick and you're all over them, then they're cool with that. If it takes you a long time to get, and they pull back and you pull back, then they know they got to come back in and work harder at getting that trauma bond formed, because they want you totally into them. And so that's kind of the early signs of it. And then you basically are getting breadcrumbed from there on out. They'll be cheating on you, and that's toward the end of the cycle. But you have the love bomb, devalue, discard. So at the end of the devalue, they're starting to monkey branch to somebody else. And as they're monkey branching to somebody else, they're devaluing you because they need to new supply with your fuel, so they gotta love bomb somebody. So that's what's going on. And so as that's going on, then also you start getting on the hamster wheel, because they're breadcrumbing you. And then you start trying to feel like you need to show them you're not what they're telling you are, because they start saying things. They're starting to rage out on you time to time and tell you all this bad stuff. And then you might get upset with them. It will get to where you're kind of getting caught up in triangulation, and you may fall trapped to it, looking up social media, falling trapped to it. And they're seeing somebody else because they're actually breaking up with you now. And now you got to prove yourself to them. That's how you start to feel. And that would be trying to show them that you're an alpha when you're really overcompensating for some BS. And the full-on discard happens. I mean, it's your full-on discard, and you're overcompensating, and it's just not going well for you. And basically they're psychologically and emotionally and spiritually effing you up. And you start feeling like, after a while, depending on how long those cycles are, you can even start feeling like you're getting sick and stuff. Your looks will be really disappearing quickly. Your finances, your money will be getting blown quick, whether it's on her or not, because it's like they have such a negative aura to them. And then they pull you down to their vibration, and it's so bad that you can't be blessed in any area of your life. It all goes downhill. And it's so bad that you start to realize it on some occasions. And then you'll do these things where you kind of go back and forth with them a lot. Be triangulated, and then you'll get together with them once in a while, and then sometimes you won't, and then they'll come back to you for cycle number 2 or something. And that's kind of how it works, and it just gets kind of worse, right? Because they know you more, but they also feel comfortable with you. So, and if they keep breaking up with you, it's easy for them to just break up again with you. And that's kind of like an understanding of how the trauma bond kind of works.